So for the consumer, when you come into a wine shop and you're looking around and you see tags on specific wines that have a little bit of a rating and maybe a description, it's kind of just a general guide. It does not have to be 100% set in stone that if something's rated 97 points, you're going to love it. There's plenty of great wines that are, rated in the low 80s that are wonderful, fantastic wines. It doesn't have to be a 90-plus wine to be a good wine, but it just gives you a gauge of what one person's thoughts are on that particular wine. And there's lots of different ways to find out what those ratings are. Probably the easiest way is you would see a shelf talker, which has the publication's name, the score they're giving the wine, and a brief description of the flavor profile of the wine. Sometimes you see little neck hangers that have the same information. Sometimes wineries will actually put it on the bottle, on the label, on the capsule to advertise that their wine has scored a certain score. If it's a Robert Parker score or a Wine Spectator score, those are kind of the two higher end reputable wine rating publications. So people pay attention to those two specifically a little more than most of the others. So if you're walking around the store, you don't know what to buy, just read the shelf talkers and see what somebody else's review of the wine is, and that'll give you a little help and a little guidance as opposed to buying something that maybe doesn't have a rating or a score. I think certainly we've gotten to the point in the wine world where if that people have some kind of prejudice against wines that aren't rated 90 points or higher. There are plenty of good wines that are rated in the 80s. One wine in particular that's one of my favorite wines we have in the store got a 79 rating, and I just don't understand how it got that. It's a wonderful wine and we sell lots of it. So don't just pay attention to the ratings. There's certainly good wines that you're going to overlook and miss if you're only worried about 90-plus point rated wines. So what makes the difference between 89 rated wine and a 98 rated wine? Typically, if it's got a higher score, then the scorer thinks that is a very good or very high example of what that wine should taste like from that grape variety from that region. And so if you have something that scored a 98, then the reviewer thinks that wine is about as perfect as you can get for that region and that grape variety. Also, it's going to have some kind of wow factor that certainly a little bit of individual preference does come into a little bit. So you may have the same wine, same vintage, same exact wine rated by 3 different publications and see 3 different scores. Well, it's 3 individual people tasting the wine, and they all have different ideas of what those should be. So another example would be if you have a wine that is rated 95 points and it's a California Cabernet, and you have a wine that's rated 95 points that's an Italian red, some people would think, well, those wines should be very equal in flavor and quality. The rating is based on the style of wine and the grape varieties grown in that region. So it doesn't mean that those wines are going to taste very similar. They could be polar opposite styles of wine and still justify getting a 95-point rating because they are the examples. That score is an example of that specific place, which that place is different from the next place and the next place. Price point. People ask, well, if a wine is rated 97 points and it's $150, what about the wine that's rated 85 that's $15? I mean, what's the big difference there? Price has nothing to do with the quality of the wine and the rating it may receive. There's a lot of 90-point rated wines that you will find that are under $20 a bottle. So it's just a good guideline, a good guide, starting point to help you navigate the world of wine in a wine shop. But hopefully there's a good person that working at your local wine shop that'll give you good customer service and can answer some questions about the wines as well.